Should the New Orleans Saints tank? Should the New Orleans Saints prioritize losing and raising their draft stock, or should they try and win? The question today, I cannot wait. I've been so excited to talk about this because this has been the topic on everybody's mind. This has been the conversation in the comment section or just amongst New Orleans fans. I see it in the comments on every video every day. I hear it from people who cover the team. They say, well, yeah, we beat the Browns. Yeah, well, we beat the Falcons, but I was kind of rooting for a loss. I was kind of rooting for us to lose so we could bump up our draft stock. Today, I want to put that to rest. Today, I want to show, not just talk about it, but I want to show statistically why that doesn't matter at all. So it is a complete misnomer. It is completely fabricated that in order to win, in order to turn your franchises around, in order to succeed, you have to have a top 5 draft pick. That is crazy. At the highest level, we can debunk that. This is basically an episode of Mythbusters. At the highest level, we can debunk that because of the teams that are bad for an extended period of time. If it was as easy as just getting a first round or a top 5 draft pick or number 1 overall pick or whatever, then bad teams would turn into good teams really quickly, right? Teams that have been awful, like the Bears, like the Panthers, like the Jaguars, like the Lions, teams like that, who were mired in years and years and decades of suck, would just be bad 1 year or 2 years, get top 5 picks, and then boom, a dynasty is created, okay? So we're going to go over some of those teams. We're going to go over just exactly how it has worked out over the last 20 years, okay? I am not just talking about the last 5 years. I'm not just talking about the last year. I'm not just talking about, since blank player entered the league, the last 20 years. That is an enormous data set, okay? So over the last 20 years, the teams that have drafted in the top 5 the most are the Cleveland Browns, the Raiders, both Oakland and Las Vegas, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Detroit Lions, okay? Now I have on screen, I've actually done this for y'all. Look at this. I'm gonna blur the back, or I'm gonna cancel out the background so you can see it. All right, so if we look on the screen here, let's just take a look. I mean, this is high level stuff. All right, so if we're looking at this, the Browns, over the last 20 years, they have been 138 and 258 and 1. Their average pick is 11.8 over 20 years. They've had 11 picks in the top 10. They've had 6 picks in the top 5. The Raiders, 159 and 238, average 11.8. 10 picks in the top 10, 6 in the top 5. The Bears, 185 and 212, 12.6 average pick, 8 picks in the top 10, 3 in the top 5. This one is the most incredible one. This one will blow your mind. The Jacksonville Jaguars, over those 20 years, are 151 and 247 with an average pick of 12.7. 15 picks in the top 10, 8 picks in the top 5. But look at this. This is absolutely nuts. I couldn't believe this when I saw it. So the Jaguars, from 2008 to 2017, almost a decade, picked in the top 10 every single year. Almost a decade straight of top 10 picks. Most of those, look at this, from 2012 to 2018, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive picks in the top 5. Okay? 6 years straight in the top 5. Over that time period, from 2008 to 2017, where they exclusively drafted in the top 10. And this isn't even counting when they almost had back-to-back, well, they did, when they had back-to-back first-round picks, all right? Our first overall picks. This isn't even counting that. So in the years where they had basically a decade straight of top 10 picks, their record during those years, their record for 10 straight years of having top 10 picks was 42 and 103. 42 and 103. Okay? That is nuts. That is insane. That alone, like, this video should be 4 minutes long, because I should say the Jaguars picked in the top 10 for 10 straight years. The Jaguars picked in the top 5 for 6 straight years, and they ended up with this. They ended up with a record of 42-103. All right. And then the Lions, 152 and 243, average pick 13.4, 11 picks in the top 10, 6 in the top 5. And you may say, well, James, the Lions are sweet. The Lions are sweet right now. But included in that time frame is an 0-16 season. All right. So don't forget, 2 years ago, the Lions won what, like 4 games? So, now as far as the teams who have won the most, this is interesting. The teams that have won the most games in the last 20 years, so since the year 2000, all right, it's actually more. It's since 2000. So it's the last 25 years, is the wins. The draft picks is the last 20 years. So the draft picks are from 2004. The wins are since 2000, all right? Since 2000, the team with the most wins are the Patriots. I took the Patriots off of this because Tom Brady kind of messes up the math. Obviously, if you draft the best quarterback of all time, so I took the Patriots out. The second team with the most wins are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers are actually really interesting. So the Pittsburgh Steelers average pick is 21.7. They have had 1 pick in the top 10 in the last 20 years. 0 picks in the top 5 since 1970. Okay, 1970, the Pittsburgh Steelers have picked in the top 5 exactly once, and that was when they drafted Terry Bradshaw. Think about that. The Pittsburgh Steelers, since 1970, since 2000, are the second most winning franchise in the NFL, and since 1970, they drafted in the top 5 1 time. That is absolutely bananas. Okay, and then if we look at the rest of my little chart, here, we have the Ravens. The Packers, I don't have the record. They're like the 3rd team, but the Packers had a 22 average pick, 2 picks in the top 10, 1 in the top 5. The Ravens, 239 and 159, their average pick is 23.1, so actually the worst out of all of these. And 1 pick in the top 10, 0 picks in the top 5. So that alone, again, like that right there, that should be finito. That should be okay. All right, we're done. That should be it. That should be enough to say, well, damn, if all of these teams are really, really bad for an extended period of time with top 10 picks and top 5 picks, why the hell am I saying that we should suck? Why the hell am I asking for the Saints to tank? Tank for what? Tanking didn't work for any of these teams I just listed. Now, what about whenever tanking does work? What about if you get a good draft pick? Because I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, well, of course, that's just a bunch of busts. But you can draft a Matthew Stafford first overall. You can draft a Carson Palmer first overall. You can draft a Joe Burrow first overall. True. You can draft a Cam Newton first overall. Generational players. You can draft an Andrew Luck first overall. Generational players. So what happens then? Andrew Luck, considered the best college prospect of all time. Not from me. Highest graded. I also have, since 2015, the actual highest graded prospects according to Pro Football Focus. Okay? This is the generational. This is the tank 4 group of players. Again, not from me. This is from Pro Football Focus's actual draft grade. And I can promise you this, if Pro Football Focus's draft grade is that high, all the other groups are that high too, and this is who people are drafting. So when in these years, this is who you're saying, I want the Saints to suck so they can draft these guys. Number 1 ever is Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was before 2015, so that's why I have him on here. Generational. Tank for luck. Suck for luck. We all heard it. What did he give the Colts? He gave the Colts 5 seasons, 5.5 seasons we'll call it, since he played 7 games in 1 year. A record of 53-33, decent. A playoff record of 4-4. He made the Pro Bowl 4 times, never got an MVP vote, and that's it. That's it. Suck for luck. And that's what you got. Virtually nothing. Okay, was he a good player? Sure. Was he worth tanking a season for? Was he worth tanking multiple seasons for? Was he worth rooting for a loss for? No. What about Stafford? Stafford, good player. Probably a Hall of Fame player. In Detroit, Matthew Stafford, 74 and 90. Sweet. Cool. Carson Palmer, Heisman winner, can't miss, generational. Bengals, 46 and 51. Sweet. Cam Newton, Heisman winner, generational, can't miss, 69 and 63. There we go. Not bad, but still, basically around 500. Joe Burrow. What about Joe Burrow? Can't miss, generational, no doubt about it. Took him to the Super Bowl, sure. Joe Burrow, 33, 29, and 1 with the Bengals, barely over 500. Let's look at some more of these generational can't miss guys. Would you tank for Trevor Lawrence? The highest graded prospect since 2015. Would you tank for Joe Burrow? We just went over that. Would you tank for Zach Wilson? Third ever, or third since 2015. What about Baker Mayfield? How'd that work out? Justin Fields, how'd that work out? Jameis Winston, how'd that work out? Kyler Murray, Marcus Mariota, Sam Darnold, Tua. All right, finally, not a quarterback. Chase Young, the highest graded defensive player. Chase Young ends up getting traded. Myles Garrett, how's Cleveland doing? Penei Sewell, okay, good, right? Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Quinnen Williams, Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons, Jonathan Allen, DeForest Buckner, Jalen Ramsey, Jeffrey Okudah, Amari Cooper, Maurice Hurst. The list goes on and on, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal. A top 5 pick is synonymous with nothing. A top 10 pick is synonymous with nothing. The reason that these teams, the reason that Baltimore is so much better over 20 years, the reason that they're better, or really over 25 years, than the Lions, then the Jaguars, then the Raiders, then the Browns, is because of the infrastructure of the team. It is because of the culture, the identity, the coaches, the roster, who they're taking in the second round, who they're taking in the third round, who they're taking in the fourth round, who they're taking in the fifth round. That's what it is. The Steelers, again, the Steelers, they're not out there, they're not out there drafting a top 5 player every other year. The Steelers have a culture. They have good coaches. They have an identity. They have a good roster. They make good picks later in the draft. They make good picks with the second round and third round and fourth round and fifth round. What does a team like Jacksonville do? They blow all these picks. And you look at some of these players too, because it's too easy. It's too easy to say, oh, well, these players just suck. Like they're just drafting busts, right? Jalen Ramsey, not a bust. Leonard Fournette at 4th overall, potentially a bust, but, whatever, still a player. Like some of these guys are players. Some of these guys are good in their own right. It's just that in Jacksonville, it doesn't really matter. Like in Jacksonville, who really kind of cares? It's just, they're there, they get wasted, they go somewhere else. Same thing when you say, well, Justin Fields isn't a bust. Well, Baker Mayfield's not a bust. They were with the team that drafted them, okay? The team that drafted them, wasted them, misused them, got nothing out of them, undervalued them, and got rid of them. So ESPN has sold the NFL draft as being like the premier way for bad teams to get good. They sell that so that you watch it, okay? They sell it so that you watch the draft, so that you put a ton of stock into first round picks, that you put a ton of stock into the draft. But in reality, that's not it. In reality, it's all about team building. It's all about getting as many good players as you can. It's about balancing contracts. It's about evaluation, things like that. Like the Steelers. Like you may say, because then the next thing you'll say is, well, you don't need a high draft pick when you have Lamar Jackson. You don't need a high draft pick when you have Ben Roethlisberger. You don't need a high draft pick whenever you have, whoever the next person is. And that's kind of my point. My point is, top 5 pick is not synonymous with MVP. It is not synonymous with Super Bowl. It's not synonymous with generational quarterback. The generational MVP Super Bowl quarterbacks, they can be sprinkled all throughout the draft. Just ask the Baltimore Ravens. Just ask the Philadelphia Eagles. Just ask the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just ask the Green Bay Packers. These teams that are on this list, like the Green Bay Packers are a great case study because they took Aaron Rodgers. Okay, they get Aaron Rodgers. Good, right? Fantastic. They find their guy. But then they don't take another offensive player until Rodgers is retired or gone. He's not retired, but until he's gone. Like, they notoriously would not draft offensive players for him. They would not draft these players. So, in the first round. So that alone is like Green Bay built these amazing offenses without even drafting offensive players in the first round. They were just finding them all over, in other spots. This thing has gotten so mixed up, and I'm sick of hearing it. I think what has happened is people are very, like, I think it's a byproduct of when you're so zoned in on one team and you're really focused on one team. It can look like, okay, well, the only way for this one team to get better is to go higher in the draft. But if you step back and you look at other teams, or you look at college, or you look at past drafts, and you look at all that, then it becomes really apparent that really isn't the answer. Like, obviously you want first round picks. Obviously you want more picks. Obviously you want, the 20th pick is better than the 32nd pick. But saying it's top 5 or bust when the NFL is littered with MVPs and best player in the league and playoff team and Super Bowl MVPs and Super Bowl champions and all of that, littered with those players who are not drafted in the top 5. But then you look at all the players that were drafted in the top 5, and it's littered with just busts or do nothing or average player or didn't matter, got traded, went somewhere else. So it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I just think it's silly. I mean, I really do. I think it's silly. When you look at history, you look at what's happened in the past. I mean, Jacksonville goes back to back first overall picks, one being a generational player. There is nobody on earth in 2021 who wasn't saying Trevor Lawrence would be a franchise quarterback. Trevor Lawrence just got $300 million, okay, for being a franchise quarterback. He may turn it around. Who the hell knows? It's been, still early, sure. But Jacksonville right now, with basically a decade of drafting in the top 10 and then back-to-back first overall picks, what do they got to show for it? I mean, this is crazy. If you take out 2018, they go from 2008 to 2023. 2008 to 2023, 15 years drafting in the top 10, and twice with first overall. And they are by far the losingest team over that time frame. Ladies and gentlemen, the writing's on the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, the proof is in the pudding, as we say. Drafting high means nothing. Drafting low means nothing. What creates winning programs and winning teams and winning franchises is the coaches, the front office, the infrastructure, the rest of the roster. Ask Nick Foles. Ask him how important the rest of the roster is. Okay, so it's all about the rest of the roster, evaluation, maximizing your contracts. That's what matters. So if you want the Saints to get better as quick as possible, root for those things. Root for a better front office, better coaches, better scheme, better second-round picks and third-round picks and fourth-round picks and fifth-round picks, better younger talent, better trades, better work in free agency. Root for that. That's what you should be rooting for. You shouldn't be rooting for the team to suck and the team to lose games so that they can get a top 5 pick, so that they can take some combination of all these guys. It just doesn't make any sense. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below. Did you learn something today? Are you surprised? Are you surprised at this? Are you surprised? Or are you going to comment, well, of course the Steelers were good. They had Ben Roethlisberger. If you're typing that, delete it. because Ben Roethlisberger wasn't taken in the top 10. Okay? Let's look where he was taken. I believe, what was it, 11? Or maybe 10? Let's see. Roethlisberger, 11. Roethlisberger was taken 11. Okay? Which is exactly my point. Did they need a top 5 pick in 2004? Did they need a top 10 pick in 2004? No. Did they have to tank for Roethlisberger? No. But look at all these other players they nailed. Look at this. Troy Polamalu, 16th overall. Santonio Holmes, 25. Lawrence Timmons, 15. Marquise Pouncey, 18. Cameron Hayward, 31. David DeCastro, 24. Ryan Shazier, 15. TJ Watt, 30. Najee Harris, 24. It's about evaluation. It's about building out the roster. What's better? This group, all drafted average probably 25th? Or this group right here? The pick means nothing. The pick means nothing. 98 graded PFF draft generational can't miss guy means nothing. Means nothing. It's where he's going, where he is placed. Caleb Williams, generational. What's wrong with Chicago? Everything else. You can even look at teams who have nailed the draft. Look at teams like the Jets. Nailed the draft. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Quinnen Williams. Studs. And what do the Jets have to show for it? The last time the Jets were good is when they had Mark Sanchez. The draft picks are not the answer. The number itself, the number of the draft pick is not the answer. It's what you do with it. How you maximize it. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Let me know in the comments below. Did you learn something today? Were you one of the ones saying the Saints should tank? Or did this do nothing for you? And where did I get it wrong? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.